For a long time, Captain America sat pretty low on my tier of MCU movies. But with every rewatch, it seems that the movie just grows on me more and more. There's a unique charm to it, and I think there's three elements that really make this film stand out apart from the other MCU origin stories. The primary thing that stands out for me with Captain America, the First Avenger, is Steve Rogers' character traits. Steve Rogers starts out as this meek, scrawny guy, small in stature, slight in frame, and rejected at every turn. He's an orphan, mourning the loss of his parents and all of the soldiers that are going to fight a war that he keeps getting rejected from. Despite being constantly turned down, Steve has this hunger, this unquenchable thirst for righteousness. It's this unwavering determination for righteousness that leads Dr. Abraham Erskine to take a chance on Steve Rogers. Dr. Abraham decides to have mercy on him, but only if Steve Rogers can pass a test. And that test involves this critical question.
Do you want to kill Nazis?
I don't want to kill anyone. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
This answer proves to Dr. Abraham that Steve Rogers isn't some wannabe gung-ho soldier. No, he's much more. He's a peacekeeper. Of course, once he gets into the army, things don't immediately get easier for Steve. Colonel Phillips is skeptical of Steve Rogers from the jump, and he really openly and blatantly questions Dr. Abraham's decision to have Steve Rogers be a part of the super soldier program.
Look at that. He's making me cry.
But one defining moment silences all doubt. During a training session, Colonel Phillips throws a dummy grenade out into the platoon of soldiers. But while every other soldier runs away, Steve Rogers dives on that grenade to try to save his fellow servicemen. That act of selflessness seals the deal for Dr. Abraham. He knows that Steve is pure of heart, the perfect candidate for the super soldier serum. Dr. Erskine's words the night before the transformation are unforgettable.
That you will stay who you are.
Not a perfect soldier, but a good man.
And that's the lesson here. Being small or weak doesn't give you an excuse to give up. And having power means that you should use it to help others and not just throw your ability around in other people's faces. Steve Rogers is the universal example of how to not act recklessly once you have ability. And even though you may not have much ability, you can still use that to help people. The second thing that really sets Captain America, the First Avenger, apart is the tribulations of Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers' transformation from David to Goliath is far from painless. Like all of us trying to achieve our goals, he faces doubt, rejection, hardships. Even after becoming the perfect physical specimen, his journey doesn't take the straightforward heroic route. Instead of fighting on the front lines, Steve is relegated to being a propaganda tool in order to raise bond money for the military. He's a glorified circus act, and he knows that. But he chose that over being a lab rat because he knew that would get him one step closer to his ultimate goal. He puts his pride aside and he does what's asked of him, knowing that it'll lead to the fight he's been longing for. And when opportunity finally does arise, when he has a chance to save his friend Bucky after he's been captured, Steve Rogers leaps at that opportunity, proving that he's not just a mascot, but he's a real hero. It's a powerful message to us all. Sometimes you're going to be caught doing jobs that you feel like may be beneath you. But with perseverance and patience, those things can shape you. See, even that goofy stage show prepared Steve Rogers for what he was going to be doing next. The third element that really holds this movie together and makes it improve with each rewatch has to be the clear battle of good versus evil. Don't get me wrong, I love a complex, morally ambiguous villain just as much as the next guy. But there's something so satisfying about that classic battle between good and evil. And this movie nails it. What better backdrop for this showdown than Nazi-occupied Germany? With the Red Skull and Hydra serving as the embodiment of evil? From the opening scene where Hydra mercilessly destroys a village despite already being given the Tesseract, it's clear that Hydra just isn't some misunderstood activist. They're monsters. The Red Skull is a fantastic villain. He's intelligent, he's physically formidable, and he's grotesque. These elements reinforce the Red Skull's sinister nature. His appearance screams death incarnate. Pair that with the Hydra soldiers, whose symbol, the serpent with many heads, reinforces their sinister nature. And you wrap all that up and you have the perfect foil for Steve Rogers' righteousness. The battle between Steve Rogers and Hydra builds to this unforgettable climax. Steve's ultimate victory, though, it comes at a great cost. He crashes the Red Skull's death plane right into the ocean, sacrificing his chance at a life with Peggy Carter in order to save the lives of millions. It's a heartbreaking reminder that doing the right thing usually comes at a cost. So, in crushing the head of the serpent, Steve Rogers' heel is bruised. And to continue to echo my favorite story, just as it appears death has won, Steve Rogers makes a glorious return from his icy tomb 70 years later, ready to face a new world and continue his fight for justice. Steve Rogers' unshakable character traits, his perseverance through trials, and the classic battle of good versus evil make Captain America the First Avenger one of the MCU's best origin stories. But that's just my take. How do you rank the top 3 MCU origin stories? Let me know in the comments. And stay tuned next week as we dive into Captain America and the Winter Soldier. And here's a look at our roadmap through the rest of the month and into February as we head on down to Captain America: Brave New World. Thanks for riding along. Peace.